And ESPN college football insider, analyst Trevor Matich. He is a national champion. Trevor, welcome back to the program. How was your weekend?
My weekend was great. It was a weekend of college football that featured no ranked-on-ranked matchups. So it seemed like it was going to be a little boring, but there was such unbelievable drama and at least one massive upset. So college football always delivers.
Yes, indeed. The season of chaos continues. The BYU Cougars back on track after a hard-fought 21-19 win up on the Palouse against Washington State. Tyler Algiere puts together a performance that no other BYU running back has in the history of the program against a Power 5 school, 191 yards. What'd you think of Tyler Algiere's performance?
Watching Washington State try to tackle him was like watching a swarm of children trying to drag down a building. He was epic in this game. And everybody knew he was going to get the ball because everybody knew that Coach Satake had challenged his team to be more physical after those two losses where they kind of got pushed around at the line of scrimmage. So Washington State expected that. They lined up to stop it. And even on that final drive where BYU ran out the clock in the last 4 minutes when they had 8 and 9 guys up at the line, they still couldn't stop it. It was sheer determination and grit by that offensive line, that young offensive line, by the way, and Tyler Algiere.
3rd and 7, and BYU still hands the ball off to Tyler Algiere. That's how confident they were that he could get that first down, which is gnarly. 191 yards is the most by a BYU running back against a Power 5 team in BYU history, which is crazy. 32 carries. I mean, this was an all-time performance by Tyler Algiere. How has he evolved as a player this year, Trevor? And do you feel like, because we're hearing he'll be an NFL draft pick?
Oh, he'll be an NFL draft pick, and he should be in national honors conversations as well. This is kind of the year of the running back in college football. I mean, you've got guys playing at the highest level at places like Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Michigan State, Syracuse. I mean, it goes on. And Algiere is one of those guys on that top tier. And the thing about him that you expect being a big former linebacker is that he's a powerful guy. And we see him run over guys, run through guys. Okay, we get that. But most backs that are that powerful and that big aren't terribly threatening to be a long run. Because, okay, if he breaks through, breaks a tackle, someone's going to chase him down, and it won't be that big a deal. He has shown elite speed for a big back as well. And that is something that really has been an important thing for BYU because the big plays are not just coming from the passing game. Big plays are coming from Tyler Algiere running between the tackles, breaking a tackle, breaking another tackle, making a safety miss, and then off to the races. And that is something that he adds to this team that you just can't quantify, and you don't really want to count on it heading into the season, but now it is one of the most important features of this offense.
ESPN's Trevor Matich is with us on BYU Sports Nation. You just mentioned how much BYU is running the ball, and hard not to when you have a beast like Tyler Algiere. However, not surprisingly, the receivers, they want the ball more. Trevor, in your opinion, does BYU need to pass the ball more?
They will. Because they will run up against defenses that will be able to stack up against the run. Good defenses will be able to take away something. And you have to have the versatility to go to plan B. I mean, that's what happened at Baylor. When they took away the rushing attack, the passing attack wasn't able to pick up enough of the slack. I'm not saying they took away, but they limited the rushing attack. And this is what will happen against better defenses. And so the passing attack right now is complementary to the rushing attack. But they will need to be able to make those big plays. Unfortunately, guys like Puka Nacua and Gunnar Romney have been phenomenal down the field. And Jaron Hall, the thing about Jaron Hall is he doesn't have a lot of yards because they have been relying so much on the pass. But there's a rating called QBR. That's quarterback rating that is not just a passer rating. It rates everything about a quarterback: passing, running, decision-making, when he makes a big play, not just if he makes a big play, when he makes a big mistake, not just if he makes a big mistake. And right now, Jaron Hall is 11th in the nation in total QBR. It goes from 100 is perfect, 0 is obviously 0. 50 is average. And Jaron Hall is 79.5, almost 80 on a scale of 0 to 100 in total QBR, one of the best in the nation. So even though they're not getting a lot of passing yards, their passing game has been quite effective. And it seems to me that if they do need it, they will be able to generate.
There's an interesting conversation among some Cougar fans about the following. Hey, why was this game so close? Washington State had lost Nick Rolovich and 4 assistants. What the heck? I agree a little bit with that, but then I also think, welcome to Power 5 football. It's going to be a dogfight more often than you think. This isn't the 80s, right? This isn't the WAC. This is a tougher slog for this BYU football team. You're going to have to win some games messy, and it's not going to be a 300-yard passing day every time. What's your opinion on sort of the week-to-week challenge of what BYU has stacked up this year, which is 7 Power 5s, and now they played 5 of them?
Right, and that's taken a toll on their team physically, and they've been able to hold up better than I've ever seen a BYU team hold up against this kind of a schedule from a standpoint of their physicality and their depth. You're right about Washington State, because people just look at what happened with their coaching staff, but they tend to forget that Washington State had won 3 consecutive Pac-12 games heading into this game against BYU. They were on a roll. And the way they came out was the way you need to come out as a team that just had the coaching staff decimated. That is, guys got together and they took ownership of their team. They took ownership of this game. And so the Washington State Cougars were not in disarray. They came out angry. They came out focused and together. And BYU had to beat a very capable team there. But it does expose something that BYU needs to fix. And that is the offense will disappear from time to time. I mean, after their initial touchdown, they turned it over on downs. They missed a field goal. They had a 3-and-out. You know, they just disappeared for the rest of the first half, basically. And then in the second half, they took over. Algiere took over. I mean, 190-some yards, and over 100 of those were in the second half. The majority were in the second half. And so they need to be a bit more consistent, because the defense did a masterful job of keeping them in the game while the offense was struggling at times in the first half. And they don't need to want to, they don't want to have to, let's put it that way, count on that to happen, because the offense needs to be a bit more consistent drive to drive.
Trevor, there were some concerns brought up on the defensive side of the ball, specifically for BYU, with tackling and at least missed angles, missed tackles, especially in the first half. But the Cougars surrender only 19 points to Washington State. And in all 6 of their wins, it's been largely the defense limiting the offenses that they have seen, and they've seen some good ones. What do you think of the BYU defense and their performance right now? What are they doing well, and where do they need to get better?
Well, they're doing well. Well, in this game, they did much better in stopping the run. What they need to do better is get after the passer without having to blitz. Because, again, there will come a time when they're facing an outstanding passer who will be able to burn the blitz and create big plays against man coverage behind the blitz. And if you don't blitz, if you can't get to him, then he's got all day to pick apart that coverage, even though there's extra guys back there. And so that's one thing they need to get better at. One of the things they've done so well, though, is in situational football. Key third downs, key moments when they get a takeaway. They've made the plays they need to make most of this season. That shows disciplined football. It's smart football. It's a coaching staff that is able to anticipate what the offense is going to do and put their guys in position to take advantage. Ben Bywater has been really outstanding in place of Keenan Peely at linebacker. And, you know, you replace a guy like Peely with a young kid like Bywater, and you worry about it sometimes. And while he's had his growing pains, Bywater, by and large, I think has been really a revelation. He's been fantastic. I think ultimately what they need to do, though, is just keep getting healthier, keep developing that depth, and then get after the passer without blitzing, because Virginia brings in Brennan Armstrong. Brennan Armstrong leads the nation in passing right now. He's the only Power 5 quarterback with over 3,000 yards. Think about that. He's on pace for between 5,000 and 6,000 yards passing. And so you don't want to give him time to throw, but you also don't want to deplete the secondary by bringing guys out to blitz.
He has more passing yards than BYU has yards. How about that? Which is just insane.
Wow.
So let's talk about Virginia. The Bronco Bowl. In comes Bronco Mendenhall, Robert Anai, Mark Atuai, Garrett Tuja, all these guys. It's going to be fun to have them back. Granted, they'll be on the wrong sideline. Weird, awkward, great, awesome. All of these adjectives, I think, describe how we're all feeling. Awkward's probably the most for Bronco Mendenhall coming back, knowing how he is. It should be fun, but it also is a bigger game than I think we thought before the season. Virginia's 6-2. They got this amazing offense like you've talked about. They won 2 games because 2 teams missed field goals. Miami and Louisville missed field goals late. They could be 4-4 very easily. BYU could be 4-4 too if they don't take care of the ball the first couple weeks. What do you think of this matchup between these 2 6-2 squads?
I think this is a great matchup. It should be a very entertaining game. And for BYU's sake, it needs to be a low-scoring game, because when Virginia's offense is on, they're putting on between 40 and 50 points per game. Their defense has been giving up a lot, but 2 weeks ago they shut out Duke, so I'm not sure exactly how that happened. But they have been giving up more points and more yards on defense, especially on the ground. Virginia's given up almost 200 yards rushing per game on average this year. And that's where BYU needs to take Tyler Algiere and get him absolutely fresh and healthy. They need to get him massages all day long. He needs to be doing his homework and his classwork, getting massages, getting cold treatment, heat treatment, whatever it takes, because they will need him to be the best defense that they can have. You don't want your defenders to be out there for too many plays against this Virginia offense, because eventually they'll bust some big plays. But if the BYU offense is able to grind out long drives and finish with touchdowns, then they'll put themselves in a position to win this thing. They just cannot afford for this to turn into a track meet.
BYU football back in the AP top 25, right at number 25, Trevor, which begs the question, if the Cougars beat Virginia, you would think that they will handle Idaho State. Don't sleep on Idaho State, I know.
Sleep on them.
Georgia
Don't
Southern.
Sleep on them, yeah.
Okay, but if BYU wins the next 3 games, and let's say they're 9-2 going into USC, where are they in the polls, given all of the chaos that's happened? What's the ceiling for this team if BYU runs the table the rest of the way in the regular season?
Well, they need help, but some of the teams above them have some pretty tough games as well. And so, I mean, to be into the top 20, possibly even top 15, is a possibility if they do win out. Again, winning out, you got to get past Virginia to start with, and that's going to be tough. You mentioned USC at the end of the season. Coming into the year, USC was picked by a lot of people to win the Pac-12 South, certainly to compete for it with Arizona State and Utah. And because of their coaching situation and other things, they've kind of they've struggled. It's possible that USC players might just check out by the time they get to the end of the season. We'll see. We don't know. They could rise up when they get to the end of the season to impress the next coach. So that's something else we don't know. But from a big picture standpoint, the ceiling for this team still is to finish the season ranked. And that's important. From a recruiting standpoint, it's also important to be ranked ahead of Utah at the end of the season, because memories of recruits tend to be a lot less long than their parents are. Right. And so they want to play on teams that are ranked. They want to play on teams that have a chance to win championships. And any recruits coming in now are going to have a chance to win Big 12 championships as they become upperclassmen. And so these are things that are important relative to the way BYU is ranked. Now, once again, the players and coaches are thinking about one thing and one thing only, and that's Virginia. But from a fan standpoint, it's okay to look at what they might be able to still accomplish this year.
Zach Wilson out 2 to 4 weeks with a PCL strain. What are your thoughts on, the injury to Zach, and hopefully what he can get back to and succeed after the injury?
He made some outstanding plays in this game. He made some throws that were vintage Zach Wilson throws. On the move, under pressure, just flicks it with his wrist almost and throws a laser into tight coverage and is caught. I think that it's bad. It never helps you in your development to miss time as a rookie quarterback. But at the same time, it'll allow him to take a step back and take a breath and watch everything now, rather than have to be in the middle of everything. And sometimes that can help as well. And his team, I think, will get better while he's resting. That's another part of the problem, is that just like Sam Darnold before him, Zach has had to force things a little bit, I think, in his own mind in order to win games that they fell behind pretty early on. And so he had to do things that were more risky than the game plan anticipated originally before the kickoff. So I think it'll be a good thing for him to be able to sit back and watch, let his teammates develop, and he'll have to make up for lost time, but I think he'll be able to do it. I just hope that this knee doesn't limit him going forward. I don't think it will, based on how they've described the injury, because so much of his game is his confidence in being able to move around and make guys miss and extend plays. And as long as he can maintain that, he'll be fine.
Trevor, I cannot wait for this weekend of college football. Of course, BYU Virginia is lining up to be a fantastic game, but as you have mentioned, college football always delivers. Here's to more chaos, my friend.
Go chaos. I love it. Look at you. Now I know what your Halloween costume is going to be. Whatever chaos looks like, that's what you're going to dress up.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, Trevor.
All right.